All right, Rabosai, good morning. So I sent out last night on the chat a new piece that we're going to focus on in Meretz Hashem for today and for tomorrow. Also, there are copies, if anyone wants, on the front table over here as well, right by Dr. Warshawski. So this is from a beautiful sefer titled Mesilos B'Ohr Ha'Chassidus. So it's a beautiful multi-volume series that really captures many of the incredible ideas of the great Rebbes of the generations. And he has a piece over here that I think I saw it and I thought it was so profound. And hopefully, Meretz Hashem will help to frame our Pesach experience. So he begins as follows. This is in Parak Dalid. It's on page 176. Ka'amor la'el, Klipas Mitzrayim Timas b'nei Yisrael v'horida osam l'diyuta tachtona, v'zeh haya iker galus Mitzrayim. Shadais Haisun Suna Bimatsur Ubegalas. We'll say this goes back a little bit to what we were discussing yesterday as well. That when we speak about the Shibud in Mitzrayim, when we speak about again the slavery for 210 years, while it is true that Torah Kedosha tells us about the physical slavery on a national or on an existential level, what was much more dramatic and much more dangerous was the spiritual servitude and the spiritual descent. Remember again, Chazal speak about this idea that we had descended, the people had descended to the 49th level of Tumah. And that's again when we say in Avodim Ayinu, Ilu lo hotzia HaKadosh Baruch Hu misham, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu not taking us out from Egypt, Hare anu uvanenu uvanei vanenu, mishubadim hayinu leparav Mitzrayim. So again, everybody wonders about this phrase, had God not taken us out of Egypt, then we, our children, our grandchildren, would be slaves to Paro in Egypt. So what's the probability of that? But again, so it's not really a physical statement, it's a spiritual statement. That there was such spiritual decay, such spiritual descent, that had the Ribono Shel Olam not taken us out, ultimately we would have been spiritualized. We'll say this is why, by the way, as an aside, that Pesach is a fascinating dynamic of redemption. Because remember, again, every time there's a major redemption, we see this machlokes. We actually spoke with this in Tzidkas HaTzadik, right? The Rebbe spoke about Mashiach, right? Mashiach comes in one of two ways. What are the two ways Mashiach comes? Either, remember again, Be'ita achishena. Either again, I earn it, and if I earn it, I can expedite it, or Be'ita, it comes. In other words, there's a certain point in time where, we'll say, I guess for lack of a better term, Klal Yisrael is too big to fail. Right? That's how HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks at us. We're like a major band. We're too big to fail. So therefore, again, if we earn redemption, fantastic. But if we don't, He's still going to redeem us. Because at the end of the day, Klal Yisrael cannot fail. What happened in Mitzrayim, will say, if you think about this, we didn't earn redemption. If you look at the story, we didn't earn it. Now the Rebbe Shalom tries to arm us with mitzvos so that we can at least, there can be some level of earning. But Lamaisa, the Rebbe Shalom redeemed us from Egypt because He realized that if He didn't, we're done. If He didn't, we disappear. So this is incredible. See here, the Mesilos writes, he says that when it comes to Mitzrayim, not only was there physical servitude, but there's a recognition that the moral and spiritual decay of Egypt had caused Klal Yisrael to descend to some of the lowest levels of Tumah. He goes on. If you look at the section that's titled Galus Haguf V'Hanefesh Tuluyo Zu Bazu, this is a profound idea. He says, V'hinei, Biadua, Shagalus Haguf V'Galus Hanefesh Tuluyos Ukshuros Zu Bazu. So we'll say this is really quite a profound idea. There are two different types of galus. There's a physical galus and a spiritual galus. So we'll say, what does galus mean? What does it mean to be in exile? To be in exile means to be dislocated from who and where you are. In other words, the Maharal writes about this as well, that in life, there's a place where you're supposed to be. There's a geographic place you're supposed to be, and there's a spiritual place I'm supposed to be. If I'm a Jew, so the geographic place I'm supposed to be is Eretz Yisrael. This is this notion that we have a homeland. That is the place I am supposed to be. And if I'm not there, I'm in a state of exile. But the Mesilos writes, this applies to Galus HaNefesh as well. Galus HaNefesh means when I am not holding in the spiritual place I am supposed to be, when I am not the person I need to be, that's called Galus HaNefesh. That's called an exile of the soul. And also I want to point out, so remember, a person could be standing in Eretz Yisrael, a person could be standing in the geographic place they're supposed to be, but still experiencing Galus HaNefesh, so, right? Spiritual exile. And by the way, we're going to see that the reverse could be true as well. Technically speaking, one could technically be in Galus HaGuf, but not necessarily be in Galus HaNefesh, which we'll see. But in any event, he points out over here that these two concepts are intertwined. Galus HaNefesh, Galus HaGuf. Exile of the body, exile of the soul are intertwined, and the common denominator is both represent I'm not where I am supposed to be. I'm not where I need to be. Ki Galus HaGashmi, Nimshach mi Galus HaRuchni. Now he says something very interesting here. He says, and you're going to see this in this sefer, the Mechaber he doesn't quote his own ideas, but he gathers again from multiple other sources. So we're going to see over here, he's quoting here from the Toldos Yaakov Yosef. Toldos Yaakov Yosef was Rav Yaakov Yosef of Polnoi, who was the Talmud Mufhak, the primary disciple of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. So he says as follows. So he's quoting over here, Ki Galus HaGashmi Nimshach Migalus, V'nei B'Yadua, Shegalus HaGuf V'Galus HaNefesh Tluyus Kshur Zu B'Zu. So exile of the body, exile of the soul are intertwined. Ki Galus HaGashmi Nimshach Migalus HaRuchni. Now both say this is a very profound statement. Literally translated, Galus HaGashmi, physical exile, ultimately, again, comes about as a result of spiritual exile. So this is really quite fascinating. What does this mean? Karva el nafshi ga'ala, shegu'ulas hanefesh, mevia be'ikvosea es gu'ulas haguf. So it's interesting. So the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh comments on the pasuk in Tehillim, Karva el nafshi, when I become close to my soul, in other words, so when I go ahead and am no longer in a state of spiritual galus, ga'ala, I experience physical galus as well. Shegu'ulas hanefesh, when a person redeems his soul. So I will say, when I leave spiritual galus, I will say here, I will tell you the truth, I was so taken. It was funny. I love this particular set of Svarim. I just opened up to this page randomly, just I was actually looking for something else, and I came across this, and I was so taken by this idea of Galus HaNefesh, Galus HaGuf, that sometimes I'm spiritually exiled. I'm not where I need to be in my ruchnius. I'm just not where I need to be. Just like I know that I'm not where I need to be physically, right? I know that I should be in Eretz Yisrael. I know that that's my home. I'm in a state of spiritual exile as well. I'm just not where I'm supposed to be in life. I'm not where I'm supposed to be in my ruchnius. Now, the Chiddush the Baal Shem Tov says is that conversely, when a person experiences spiritual geula, right? So when a person experiences when there's geula sanefesh, when I leave spiritual exile, physical redemption, right? Physical geula follows along. He says, "Ulefichach kedei sheyinselu Yisrael migalos u'shibud gufam haya aleihem lihigal tchila migalos hanefesh ulehis orer b'tshuva shalema." Therefore, again, I told this Yaakov Yosef, quoting his Rebbe, quoting the Baal Shem Tov, says something amazing. Therefore, for the Jews in Egypt, if they were to truly go ahead and leave the physicality of Mitzrayim, the physical shibud, the first step was spiritual redemption. So I will say, this is a profound relationship that I think really requires, so according to the Baal Shem Tov, so let's talk about what we have. What we have are two different forms of exile. Galus hanefesh, galus haguf. Spiritual exile, physical exile. The Baal Shem Tov says they're intertwined. But not only are they intertwined, the Baal Shem Tov says, pretty much, you can't have physical redemption from exile without spiritual redemption from exile. Gu'ulas hanefesh must come before Gu'ulas haguf. And therefore the Rebbe posits that in Mitzrayim, and we'll say, now the story, even the narrative makes a little bit more sense, because remember what I just said before, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu redeemed us and we didn't really even deserve it. Right? But say, remember, when you understand that we were on the 49th level of Tun, like Chazal say, the whole story of Yitzias Mitzrayim and the behavior of the Jews in the desert makes so much more sense. The Ribono Shel Olam did not go ahead and redeem a nation of malachim or a nation of tzaddikim or a nation of individuals who truly merited it, right? He redeemed a pretty cantankerous bunch, right? Which is why at every single turn, there's a complaint, there's a rebellion, there's a this, but yet, amazingly enough, what happens towards the end of the shibud, right before we leave? There's like a frenetic pace of mitzvos. So there's Milah, there's Pesach, and even just Pesach, as we saw, Mikcho Ba'asr, we'll take it on the 10th. So many things. Why? The Baal Shem Tov said, because there was no way to physically leave Mitzrayim, there was no way to experience Ge'ulas Haguf without first redeeming the soul, without first Ge'ulas Hanefesh. So we'll have to stop over here, but we'll pick up in Meretz Hashem tomorrow with this idea of the Baal Shem Tov, how Ge'ulas Hanefesh and Ge'ulas Haguf are intertwined, and ultimately, again, what it means for us. Shkach Abosai.